Good evening and welcome to the Ombudsman's program. My name is Dianne Wellborn. I am the Ombudsman and I will be your host for this evening's program. Tonight, I'm very pleased to bring to you all, our viewers, a program featuring the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton area. This is a perfect time as the season is moving into our next cycle of elections for information, for campaign information, for voting guides, and for all of the distribution of the good work that the League does. So I'm very pleased to be joined tonight by Mario, who is the president of the Board of Directors of the League of Women Voters. Thank you, Mario.
Thank you.
And I'm also pleased to have with us Christine Corba, who is the executive director of the League of Women Voters. Welcome, Christine. You're muted, so you'll want to take that off.
Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. And we are also pleased to have with us Dianne Herman, who is the vice president of voter service. So we'll get to hear more about what each of you all do to help support our league as we move through the program. I'd like to begin, there may be some viewers out there who are not really familiar with the League of Women Voters. So I'd like to start off tonight by allowing you all to speak a bit about your mission and your purpose.
So Dianne, the League of Women Voters is dedicated to empowering everyone to fully participate in our democracy. We have leagues in 50 states, more than 750 individual leagues, and we engage in advocacy, education, litigation, and organizing to protect every American's freedom to vote. We believe in respect for individuals, the value of diversity, the empowerment of the grassroots, both within the league and in communities, and in the power of collective decision-making for the good of all. We've expanded our vision to be more inclusive. We're looking at expanding voter access, fighting voter suppression, money in politics, and a big one for us locally is the redistricting issue.
Yes, good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Then I'd like for any of you to talk about a bit about the history, which I think find is very fascinating, and the origin, the history of the League of Women Voters. And if you want to, you can talk about it from our local perspective, but also if you want to throw in anything nationally, that would be most welcome as well.
Well, the League actually came out of the suffrage movement. Many people are not aware of that. Women in the United States fought for over 80 years to try to get the right to vote, which was enshrined in our Constitution with the 19th Amendment that was passed in 1920. Well, so the first generation of suffragists had died by the time women got the right to vote in the United States. But the second generation continued to carry the torch. And so it was a multi-generational push over decades. When women got the right to vote, then the question was, as our leader at that time, Carrie Chapman Catt, said, well, now we've got the vote, what are we going to do with it? Women don't know how to vote. They're new voters. And so the first task was to teach women how to vote. And locally, James Patterson was a great supporter of the League of Women Voters and for women getting the right to vote. He felt that with women's influence in politics, that it would be a counter corruption force in our democracy. At the time, there was quite a bit of municipal corruption in Dayton, and so he wanted to have a more effective system of governance for the city, for business. He was a businessman. So the league started out by teaching women to vote, but then they had to also educate women about the issues on the ballot. So you're voting, but what are you voting for? So those are the two kind of prongs that propelled the League of Women Voters. And so to this day, we still educate people how to vote. We register voters. We're known for that. We teach other organizations how to register to vote also. And then once we register, then the question is, well, who are you going to vote for and why are you voting for them? So we wanted to have an engaged, educated electorate because democracy thrives when people are engaged in the process and informed about the process. So that's our history in a nutshell, and that's the basis from which we operate.
That's very fascinating. What then is the size of the league in our area today? What's your membership?
Well, right now we have just over 300 members in the greater Dayton area, and those are men and women. Men can join the League of Women Voters. They have been welcomed since 1974 from Greene and Montgomery counties. And all of those members are an invaluable part of the League and all of our activities. As League members, we ask everyone to volunteer their time. And our office is just me and a part-time administrative assistant. And there is absolutely no way in the world that we could ever accomplish all of the things that we do every year without this group of incredibly intelligent and passionate people.
Oh, that's wonderful. We'll circle back before the end of the program to make sure that viewers know how to become a member if they are not a member already. But I think you've kind of touched on one question that I was going to ask about the importance of the volunteer component of the League.
Well, as I think Chris alluded to, we have a 1.5 person office, and yet we are all over the community doing a variety of events. I tallied it up. We have over 60 active volunteers between our board and the various committees and people who come out to actually do the work. So Dianne can say voter service and voter registration is an active component of what we do. And regularly people are out there with their clipboards and pens and registering people. So but that's a pretty impressive number of people who are clearly active all the time.
It's fantastic. I'm sure you can also always use more. One comment that I've received already is that it's exciting to hear about the history of the League of Women Voters coming out of the suffrage movement. And a follow-up to that is that are there particular outreach efforts currently to reach out to young women to encourage them to become voters? And I see you all nodding, so take it away.
Yeah, actually, I think that's one of the things that we are really engaged in at this point in time is to try to get more young people interested in voting and encouraging them to vote, and also getting more young people to join the League of Women Voters. We're actually going to be at Rock the Vote on September 22nd. We'll be registering voters for that event, and we're really hoping that we see a lot of folks interested in wanting to get engaged in the democratic process.
Wonderful.
So we do have a student membership as well. I mean, anybody over the age of 16 or 16 and older can join. And if you're a student through college, membership dues are actually $10, so quite doable. We have registered a couple of student members, high school students, this year, one of whom interned in our office over the summer. And we are on college campuses frequently as well.
That's good to know. That's the place to go to try to raise awareness and get new voters for us. One of the important things that I've appreciated over the years are the policy positions that have been taken by the League. And I know that must be a challenging process because it is a process where many people have to come together and agree on what a policy statement is going to be. Can you discuss a little bit more for us how that actually works? And then are there any particular policy positions that are being advocated at this time?
There's a study going on through the Ohio State League on criminal justice reform. You're right, it takes a lot of people and a lot of time. We have two of our league members, Val Lee, who is our action chair, and David Bodery, who is our vice president of program, who have been working on this study for more than a year. It's been divided into different groups. David's been working on reentry, and their committee has just completed conversations on sentencing. And so at some point, these different reports get released and they combined, and then it gets sent to the state and around the state for discussion and consensus. So at that point, they can move towards one of the conventions, either the state convention or national convention, to have the larger membership vote on whether or not to accept the positions. So we've talked about kind of doing some studies on the local level, but it's a huge time commitment. And so we're doing mostly what the state is doing right now.
That's understandable.
I think there's also a misconception about the league, because although we are nonpartisan, strictly so, we do not endorse any political party or any political candidate, but we are a political organization in that we do take stands on issues. And as Mario was describing, sometimes we're criticized for being too convoluted in our process, but we always approach any public policy issue. For example, on the ballot this year in November will be an issue about bail reform. And likely the league will take a position on that with pros and cons about the different proposals, voting yes or no on a bail issue. So we go at this in a methodical way, and then as a result of studies and then a consensus process that involves every level, we form our policy positions and then take a position on a particular issue when it appears on the ballot, or if it's an issue locally. For example, we've historically supported the Human Services Levy, which is a local issue, Montgomery County issue. So that's the process we use to formulate our positions.
Good, thank you very much. Was there anything else to add on that particular point? All right. I find, and I believe that the voter's guide is one of the most valuable resources that is produced, by the League of Women Voters. I think that I see it going into the voting booths with people, that they're taking that in there as an assistant because people don't always know about all the candidates on the ballots that we're presented. Sometimes they're quite large. Why don't you please inform us about how the voter's guide is developed each year?
Well, first of all, I want to applaud the committee. The voter's guide is produced entirely by a committee of members who work tirelessly to make it happen. We start in early July to start talking about the questions that we would like to ask the candidates. We receive some guidance from state to guide our conversation, but we also ask questions that are pertinent to our particular area. And what's very important to us as we're crafting those questions is to make sure that they are not biased. We want to make sure that any question that we ask is straightforward and doesn't have any sort of partisan angle to it. That's very important to us. Once we've formulated all those questions, we get information from the boards of elections about contact information for each of the candidates. And we send out, this year, we sent out a postcard ahead of time with a save the date. You're going to be getting information from the League of Women Voters. Want to make sure that your email address is correct and phone number is correct, so that if we need to make some follow-up phone calls or emails, that we have that information readily available. And then we send out emails to each of the candidates who is in a contested race. If you are in an uncontested race, then we generally just list your name as, you know, unopposed, and but the folks that are in contested races, we want their opinions, and we are very careful to make sure that each and every candidate is contacted. And then if we don't get information back from those candidates, we do lots of follow-up emails, we do follow-up phone calls. If we try in every single way we can to make sure that everybody's voice is heard. Then it gets shipped off to AIM Publications, who do all of the layout for us. We spend a lot of time editing and getting everything ready for the big event, which is going to be the second week in October. I just started at the League last year. Last year was my first Voters Guide party. It really is. It's a party when all of the voters' guides get delivered to our office, and our front office is filled with paper. And magically, all of those newspapers disappear within about an hour, because all of the League members come and start delivering them all throughout Montgomery and Greene counties. And then the voters' guides are going to be available in the Dayton Daily News. And they are also available in AIM Publications, which are suburban newspapers. And every year we also publish a version of the Voter's Guide in Spanish, and that is inserted into La Vanguardia newspaper, as well as distributed to local restaurants, churches that have a high population of Hispanic people. And you're exactly right. It is much anticipated. Dianne and I were just at a meeting at the library a few weeks ago, and they said, how many voters' guides are you sending us? And I said, well, we generally send about 500 per location. And they said, more. We need more. So we know it's very popular. And then it's also going to be available on our website as well.
That's great. This must be a significant cost. If you were to add up all of the volunteer time that goes into creating that and then the actual production, would you like to give us an estimate about that?
This year it's going to cost about $20,000 for us to produce the Voter's Guide, and that all comes from donations. So the great majority of, it's a lot of $100 donations, $50 donations, and we are greatly appreciative of those folks. We do have some regular donors as well that donate more, and we make sure that we recognize those kind people on the back page of the Voter's Guide as well.
Well, thank you very much. So the Voter's Guide, did you say, is going to be out this year on the second week of October?
The goal is the week of October 10th.
Okay, very good. And I know viewers and myself will be looking for it to come out. And it's distributed entirely by your volunteers and supporters. Is that correct?
That is correct, as well as the local newspapers.
Yes, that's quite a feat in this day and age. So I'm very glad to learn about that.
One of the things I'd like to say also, how this becomes so intense is because we have to wait until all the candidates have been certified before we can even begin the mailings. That's why you think, oh gosh, October 10th, it seems to be awfully close now that we have early voting. But it's really the timing of making sure that everybody gets a chance to reply. Mm-hmm. So, that's a factor too. So it gets very busy in the office with people on different computers and entering things and copying and pasting.
Yes,
so,
when people see me out and about, they ask how I am, and I'm like, well, it's election season. And they're, oh, well, okay, we'll just leave you alone right now. Because everything, we're busy. We are very busy between August and November.
It is a lot of work to produce that Voter's Guide.
Yes. Is there, I guess I don't want to let an opportunity go by here for you if there are any particular volunteer requests that you want to put out with respect to the guide. Is there something in particular that you're looking for that you might want to say on air tonight that a viewer might respond to?
Well, I mean, honestly, the members of the League of Women Voters they always come out in droves for Voters Guide. It is like Christmas. And there's just a flurry of excitement, a flurry of activity. But we have the funding that we need for this year, but if people love and appreciate the Voters Guide, we are always looking for donations to help make that happen.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. I'd like to know a little bit about something I saw on your website, but I'm not very familiar with it at all, is the Observer Corps. And what do they actually do, and how do people become involved in that?
We're going to be starting a new ramped up program of Observer Corps after the election. And basically, Observer Corps is, again, another mechanism that the League uses to engage people in our community and get them involved and educated about the political process. So as a League member, you can volunteer to be on the Observer Corps. You have to go through a training. And then in your local community, for example, I live in Clayton, so I might volunteer to observe the Clayton City Council meetings. So these are governmental entities. It can be school boards, local civic organizations, like the city commissioner, the county commissioners. So those local governmental entities, we have volunteers, and you can volunteer. We ask that you volunteer in the community in which you live to attend on a regular basis these meetings. And you can do it like with a group. So maybe your book club wants to join the League and, for example, monitor your local school board. You can trade off individuals to attend those meetings. And we do not participate in the meeting. We just observe. We don't say anything. We don't ask any questions. We just observe and we do a report. Now, besides as a mechanism for educating our citizens about the political process and engaging them, this also serves a function for if controversial issues come up. We have an objective record of what's been going on, what's transpiring, and we can then educate the community at large about whatever particular issue is that may be arising, like at the county commissioners or whatever entity it is we're observing.
I see. And so those reports then come back to the League and are kept there. That the observers do, okay, about what has happened at that particular meeting that they watched or observed.
Well, and with the beauty of the internet, we can make it available online too. So I think one of the goals will be, as they reconfigure Observer Corps, is to make it available on the website so that people can follow that way, or through links through the voter, because our newsletter now is also electronic, and that gives a lot of scope for linkage to various things on the internet.
Yes, very, very good. I would imagine that you'll have a lot of takers on this. I would imagine it would be a very interesting thing for people to get to do. We have currently, you hear about this, not maybe in our area, but you hear about some candidates that just refuse to take part in debates. And I just wondered what you all at a local level, if you've encountered that, and what might be done to encourage people who are refusing to get involved in a debate to go forward with it.
I guess I want to emphasize, and I can't emphasize this enough, that the League of Women Voters is nonpartisan, that we don't endorse or oppose any candidate. And we make every effort that we can to ensure that candidates from both sides of the aisle are included in every program and event that we hold in terms of the election process. I know that there have been issues on both sides. I know I just read an article in the paper the other day where it's not only one side. There are lots of candidates who are choosing not to participate in candidate forums, in voters' guides, and I think that what we can do as best as we can is to make sure that everyone understands completely that we want to be inclusive. Dianne, can you add to that too?
Well, yeah, and I think, you know, usually political advisors will say, well, you know, if you're ahead, it's not to your advantage to make public statements that might get you into hot water. And so there's a tendency for some candidates, and as Chris was alluding, it cuts across all political parties and all different types of candidates. So, but, you know, on the other hand, I think voters do pay attention. Polling indicates that voters are not enamored with candidates who do not participate in the process, either in forums, debates, or in the voters' guides. And in fact, there was one situation where we were in a community and several of the people running for the city offices had not participated. And it was brought to the attention of the candidates at this particular community meeting that the voters were not real happy with them. And all of a sudden they decided they wanted to participate in the voters guide. So, you know, it can be to the detriment of a candidate too, not to participate. So, you know, we would hope that any candidate who's running for office would want to be engaged in educating the voters about their positions.
And anecdotally as well, we do get calls from voters that say, I just looked on Vote 411 and my candidate hasn't put anything in there yet. Well, we offered that opportunity and they chose not to participate. And Dianne is correct. There's a lot of frustration that goes along with that from voters. They want the candidates to give their opinions and how they're going to handle different issues as they arise. So we do encourage everyone to participate because it's, you know, it's important for people to know who they're voting for. That's what we're about. We're about educating voters, and we can't educate voters without information from each of the candidates.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Sort of along that line, again, recognizing the nonpartisan nature of the league, there's a lot of current controversies about election fraud going on all across the country. It's on the news all the time. And I'm wondering what your response is to this, either when you get these questions locally, and then maybe if you could also inform our viewers, has the National League of Women Voters made any statement about this at this time?
As a league, we support each of our boards, the boards of elections that we work with, Greene County Board of Elections and Montgomery County Board of Elections. And when asked by anyone, you know, what about voter fraud? I don't believe that everything is on the up and up. I challenge them to attend a Board of Elections meeting, which are open to the public, so that you can watch the meetings as they unfold, watch and hear the discussion that takes place in those Board of Elections meetings, and also the transparent nature that they have in terms of testing their equipment. And after every election, they run an audit on a certain number of votes that were received to make sure that everything matches up. And also they invite the public to attend those. They invite the public to watch how all of that happens. So you know, the idea that people are tapping into the voting equipment, that they can't. It's not on the internet. There isn't a way to do that. The other thing is that the boards of elections are completely bipartisan. So no matter what, you need to have a Republican and a Democrat there to unlock the room where the voting machines are kept. You need to have a Republican and a Democrat at each polling station. So for example, I was voting at the August primary and I messed up. Imagine that. I messed up on my voting. And so I called over and I said, there's an issue with my machine. I, tapped at the wrong time, and immediately brought one person of one party and person of the other party to watch as that was corrected. So every step of the way, the boards of elections are very, very careful about making sure that there is a person of each party represented.
Thank you. Reassuring.
Yes. And the league is also encouraging voters to be careful in terms of the sources of the information that they receive. We've all heard that there's a lot of conspiracy theories and misinformation, distortion of information that's in our political climate these days. And so we try to make sure that, for example, the voter's guide is an impartial source of information. We encourage voters when they're reviewing voter information or information about elections to fact check the sources of information. And we try to make that something that we stress.
Good, thank you. Thank you for that. And we'll come back to some of that fact checking in just a little bit. What are some of your greatest challenges here with our League of Women Voters?
I think one of the biggest challenges that we're facing, not only locally but nationally, is voter apathy. For example, the last primary that was held in August, only 5% of registered voters in Montgomery County came out to vote. And we're trying to figure out a way to encourage those people that feel as if their vote just doesn't count. We recently completed a program in cooperation with Sinclair Community College to try to identify, the places where there's a high population of folks that are registered to vote, but they simply don't come out to the polls. Is it because they don't have transportation? Is it because they don't have childcare? Is it because they don't understand what the issues are? Or is it, and unfortunately, feeling as if their vote just doesn't count? So I think that's the biggest issue that we're facing right now, in my opinion. Dianne, Mario, do you have other thoughts?
I think that's been a topic of conversation for some time. I mean, we've been noted as the organization that goes out and gets the registrations, but how are we following up with education? So, we're kind of adding or even slightly shifting some of our focus to large community events for voter information. We do offer opportunities for registration. We also now, because so many things are online and people have smartphones, we can check to see if your registration's up to date. Because sometimes people in the course of moving, let me fix my voter registration is not top of the to-do list. So, there's those things. But I think, being able to provide reasons why you need to go out and vote, I think is probably our biggest challenge and opportunity at this point.
Very nice. Well, that example that you gave, Christine, of you, the president of the League of Women Voters, needing assistance when you were using the voting equipment, and that you had that assistance come up in the form of a member of each party there to just oversee and make sure that you were taken care of in that regard is really quite reassuring. And I'm getting an email question here on the side, prompting me to ask you if you've thought about making a TV commercial dramatizing that incident, which would show people what happens if they're having a problem with their vote, and how the response is going to come to assist them. So that's just an idea from a member that's writing in on email. So
that's a good idea.
We can do video promotions. I know we've talked about, making videos, particularly in other languages, on how to vote.
Mm-hmm.
What is the process? What are the steps, to kind of get people familiar? Because as you know, we do a lot of work with newly naturalized citizens. And we do a lot of voter registration with them too. But then what's our follow-up? How do we assist them in becoming comfortable with the process? So, but I like that. That would be really cool. That could be, who could we get to play the Republicans and Democrats?
Just as long as I don't have to go on and say I made a mistake in voting. Well, everybody makes mistakes, right?
We'll have somebody come in and play
you. You just did that, which was an honest confession that it can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody at all.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. What is a league action alert? I saw that mentioned on the website.
Yeah, we do have the league is, as Mario described, is a multi-layered organization. We have a national League of Women Voters of the U.S., League of Women Voters of Ohio, and then the local, like League of Women Voters of Greater Cuyahoga County, for example, or Greater Dayton. The State League actually has lobbyists and people who monitor legislation at the State House. And so if there's an issue that's coming up in terms of hearings or new legislation being considered to be passed, we can send out alerts to our members to educate them about the issue and then give them information on who they can write to in regards to expressing their opinions. And of course, the league has been at the state level and at the local levels has been very involved in the redistricting process. And so at various points in that process, we have received action alerts to let us know to contact certain members of the redistricting commission to indicate our position on passing fair maps. So those are some examples of using action alerts so that we're on top of things and let our members know, and then also provide a process by which they can put in their input in terms of whatever's going on at the State House.
And we also encourage people to share that information with others as well outside of our membership. So if you have a group of friends that would be interested in a particular issue, to send that along to them as well, to build up the momentum in terms of letting our legislators know how we feel.
Right. Very good idea to spread it among additional networks, of course. There's lots of volunteer opportunities with the league, and I'm going to go on with some other questions, but I'm going to come back to that because we want to make sure that people know that there's something for everyone in the opportunities that you all have there. But why don't we take a minute now and let you all inform the viewers of your upcoming events. Mario mentioned you're working toward having larger education events for the public so that you can get out that information. Tell us what you have on the calendar for the fall.
Well, September 20th, we have a program, community education program, September 20th, which is voter registration day, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the downtown Dayton Metro Library. We're going to have a panel of 5 experts talk about the redistricting process. In November, when Ohioans go to vote, they're going to be voting on unconstitutional legislative maps at the state and at the federal level. This is not something we as Ohioans should be proud of. No. And it's something that needs to continuously be addressed. But in the meantime, voters may not know what exactly happened with this redistricting process, how it went awry, and what we can do going forward to make sure the next time we vote in a general election that we have constitutional legislative maps. So that's one upcoming program that we are encouraging people to attend.
Great.
I mentioned that we're going to be at Rock the Vote at the Bright Side on September 22nd. That's a fun opportunity to get some more information about different issues that are coming up and register to vote if you're not registered yet. And so that's going to be fun. And then on October 4th, we will be hosting Tom Settis, who is an editorial writer for the Dayton Daily News. His column is on Monday mornings generally, and he is just incredibly witty, incredibly insightful, and he's going to provide us with a behind the scenes peek at what's going on at the State House. We're also hosting or co-hosting some forums on October 13th. For those viewers who are in the Centerville, Washington Township area, there will be a meet and greet opportunity where candidates will have the opportunity to introduce themselves, and then voters will be able to ask questions one-on-one of those candidates that evening. And then on October 20th, we will be at the Wright Memorial Public Library hosting another forum for those folks who live in the District 36. And just something important to note as well, that we will have the judicial candidates at each of those events as well. And I think one of the things that is very people don't understand just how important it is to vote for judges. And I think it's really important. We all, as the league, feel it's very important for voters to get an idea of who is going to be sitting on the bench and making decisions.
Yes, very, very important indeed. And oftentimes, because they don't campaign in the way that other candidates do, many people just don't know much about it until they take the initiative to look it up. I may not know until they walk in to cast their vote, and that's not an educated vote or a good way to do that. Well, you all have a very busy fall, so that's going to be exciting for you all with all these events. And just to be clear for our viewers, these are all events that are going to be listed on your website, and they're all free of charge, and you do not have to register for them. Is that correct?
Rock the Vote.
Okay.
And that is to help cover the cost of the bands, and then whatever proceeds come from that, we will get a donation. So we are very grateful to Rock the Vote for that. The Tom Settis event is $20 per ticket. It will take place at the Fitz Center for Community Leadership and Community, which is down on South Main Street. The forums, of course, are free of charge.
Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying all of that. Are there any other additional publications you would like to highlight for the viewers that they should be looking out for in addition to the voter's guide that we talked about?
We have a directory of public officials, and again, because the league encourages engagement by voters and citizens, this is a publication which lists all the current office holders from school board, city commission, county, state, and federal office. All of the people who represent us in the state and federal level and the county level. So and it also shows your districts. It has just a wealth of information. So, and it's available. How much are we charging now, Chris?
$7.
$7?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's really, I've used it several times.
Well, and the nice thing is too, if you want to write a letter to your representative, it gives you the helpful tips that you'll need to be able to write an effective letter, and also the correct way to address each of of your elected officials.
That's a very valuable resource. Again, that must take a lot of volunteer effort to put that together. That's quite
And it does, yes.
Any other publications that you want to highlight?
Well, I think that the biggest publication that we have every year is that Voter's Guide,
Yeah.
and we can't wait for it to be published and out and about.
Yes, I know you're very excited for that. We're all looking forward to it.
And we have a monthly newsletter too that you can access. You don't have to be a member. You can go onto our league website, and it's called The Voter. And it's our monthly newsletter. It tells you all the things that are going on.
Okay. I'm receiving another email. People are writing to me at my ombudsman email about this. And one that has come in is asking, can legal residents with a green card vote?
You must be a citizen of the United States.
You need to be a citizen, yes.
That's a quick answer to that one. Thank you, Diane. You must be a citizen to have the right to vote. This is an era that we seem to be in now, where there's a lot of mistruths and myths and things swirling around. And I was very impressed with your fact-checking resources that are available. And I think that Mario is prepared to share the screen with us for a few minutes to show us or talk to us also about some of the fact-checking resources and a little bit more about the website that we have been talking about during the course of the program. So take it away, Mario.
Thank you. So fact-checking is really important, and there are a couple of really well-known entities out there that have proven themselves to the public. You will find that on our lwvdayton.org website under voter information, fact-checking. And coming up, there we go. These are recommendations from the Berkeley Library, and if you click on this link right here, it takes you to links for all of them. But on the page here is a description of what they are. So Snopes, fact check from the Washington Post, Open Secrets, factcheck.org. These are things, PolitiFact, these are things that you'll see actually the newspapers use when they're writing columns about different events and what people have said. So, you know, in this era of misinformation, it's always helpful to go to somebody who has no agenda except to provide the truth. Our website in general has a lot of information about who we are, what our positions are, the history that Diane alluded to. One of the things that we do is we have an Empowering You podcast, video.
Webinar.
I'm sorry?
It's produced through DATV.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's monthly. We also do, so this was a Reaching Across the Aisle event with Tony Hall and Bob Taft, which talked about civility and cooperation in political life. A TED Talk by one of our league members, Andrea Walker Cummings, who has researched the African-American suffragettes who participated in the formation of our league.
Interesting.
You know, it sounded, I felt a lot more prepared before I actually started to do this.
It's showing up just fine.
So you mentioned, how do people join the league? Well, you can also do that from the website. So if you go to Get Involved, Join League, and there is a link for an online membership form, or you can print one out if you're more comfortable with that and mail it in. And then you can pay your dues either with a check or with PayPal. And part of this is also what we call a member interest sheet, which will kind of list all the different ways that you can be active in the league. We have anywhere from providing refreshments for an event, to get involved in voter registration, be a part of our candidate forums and so on. So Dianne, you had mentioned, ways to be involved in that. So that is also a way that people can see the different things that we have going on. Don't know if
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. We'll come back and talk a little bit. We don't have as much time as I'd like to go over everything, but let's talk a little bit about some of those ways that people can be involved. Well, somebody had to organize these candidate forums. So that's one way. I mean, Christine and Dianne can't do, and Mario can't do it all. So I guess people can get involved and organize that. And maybe it's not too late, I don't know, for some people that are in jurisdictions that you haven't mentioned, to organize one or find out how to do that in their area. Representing the league at naturalization ceremonies. The place
it's really popular.
Yes, I bet it's a very moving,
it's so
moving ceremony to attend, where people come and swear allegiance to the United States, and the federal judges that do that do such a nice job. Dianne, would you want to add anything else about that?
Yes, those events happen at least about once a month, and league members and volunteers attend the naturalization ceremony. And after the person is sworn in as a citizen, they're registered to vote. We usually get at least about 90% of the new citizens registering to vote. And we also provide information about the league. So again, as Mario and Chris have alluded to, educating the new voter about the process. That's one of it's a very popular activity, and it's a really great way to participate in our democracy.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you. And then we've spoken of many already. To help recruit new members, to help deliver the voter's guide. There are a number that we've already talked about in the program, and I'm afraid we're running out of time on that. So people can go and look at the website for other volunteer opportunities. But before we do run out of time, I wanted to give each one of you a moment for any thoughts you'd like to share that maybe I haven't asked you about. So I'll start with Christine.
Well, I think the most important thing is that the League of Women Voters is your League of Women Voters, and we are available to answer questions. If you have questions about whether or not you're registered to vote, we can help you find out whether you're registered to vote. If you have questions about where you're supposed to vote, we can look that up for you as well. To help advocate for you if you have issues in terms of making sure that you're where you're supposed to be when you're voting. I just had a question from a person who was concerned because their address was incorrect and they couldn't figure out how to make it right in the system. So if you have questions or concerns, you can call the league. We're here between 9 and 5 every day at 937-228-4041, or email us at league@lwvdayton.org, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have. You can also email us via our website as well.
Thank you so much, Christine. Dianne, do you have anything you would like to conclude with?
I always like to think about the league and one of its mottos, making democracy work. Democracy is a very fragile thing and requires an educated, informed, and involved electorate to be successful. So that's what we're here for, making democracy work, and we encourage people to vote.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And Mario, President, what would you like to end our program with, please?
Again, the democracy is participatory. You cannot sit at home and expect things to go the way you think they ought to. So whether it's coming out to events, whether it's getting more education through websites or the publications, but you have to be there in order for things to happen. Don't let other people make decisions for you.
Thank
folks.
you. Wonderful, wonderful remarks. I need now to end this. It's been a very fast and fun program, and I thank you all for participating, and I thank the viewers for watching, and I thank those that emailed in with their questions. So remember to go to the League's website, take advantage of this great educational material that are there and the opportunities that they present, and vote. Thank you. Goodbye.